Hi, this is Michael, and welcome back to the Round Number One YouTube channel. We'll get into the 2026 Royal Rumble results in just a moment, but before we dive into the chaos, the surprises, and the questionable booking decisions, I want to revisit how I ended the last episode because this part of the story is too big, too strange, and too important to gloss over. We need to talk about the stadium, the Riyadh Season Stadium, the temporary custom-built open-air venue that WWE and Saudi officials put together in the King Abdullah Financial District specifically for the 2026 Royal Rumble. Yes, you heard that right. Built for this event and no other. Saudi officials and WWE constructed a brand new stadium because the Royal Rumble requires production and spatial demands that no other existing Saudi venue can accommodate. This wasn't Crown Jewel. This wasn't Super Showdown. This was the first traditional Royal Rumble ever held outside North America, and they wanted a made-for-TV spectacle to mark the moment. For comparison, the greatest Royal Rumble took place in 2018. It wasn't a traditional Rumble. That took place in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. This year's Rumble took place in Riyadh, the capital and the largest city in Saudi Arabia. And remember, WWE is scheduled to run 3 events in Saudi Arabia in 2026. We at Round Number One still don't know the date or the location of the next PLE, but clearly this sponsorship is getting bigger. Now, let's address the controversy, the 35-day construction timeline. People are asking, how did they build a 17,000-seat stadium in just over a month? Was cheap labor involved? Was this rushed at the expense of worker safety? So let's stick to facts, not assumptions. Fact number 1, Saudi officials in WWE were behind the construction of the venue. Fact number 2, according to organizations like Walk Free and Amnesty International, Saudi Arabia has the highest prevalence of modern slavery in the Arab States region, and the 4th highest prevalence in the world. Fact number 3, migrant workers, who make up the majority of the workforce, have historically been vulnerable under the kafala system, which is a restrictive sponsorship model that gave employers enormous control over workers' lives. Saudi Arabia has announced reforms and the abolition of the kafala system, but many activists and human rights groups argue that these changes have not gone far enough to protect workers in practice. Fact number 4, Amnesty International continues to interview migrant workers in Riyadh who report exploitation while building public transport systems, hospitals, and other major infrastructure projects. So, did WWE and Saudi Arabia exploit migrant workers to build this stadium? The honest answer is, we don't know. And realistically, do we expect WWE to come out and say, yeah, our staff saw unsafe working conditions and we documented it in emails? Of course not. So no corporation is going to volunteer information that could lead to reputational, legal, or financial consequences. And that's exactly why this situation raises eyebrows. If a stadium had been built in the United States, a 17,000-seat venue constructed in 35 days, it would be national news. It would be on ABC, CNN, MSNBC, everywhere. It would be treated as a miracle of engineering. But in Saudi Arabia, a country of one of the highest modern slavery prevalences rates in the world, the same achievement suddenly becomes suspicious. And yes, I'm raising my eyebrow like The Rock because something about this doesn't sit right with me. WWE wanted a spectacle, Saudi Arabia wanted a spectacle, and they absolutely delivered one. The real issue here isn't the fireworks, the drone shows, or the 35-day stadium miracle. The real issue is, what does it mean when a global entertainment company partners with a country that has documented labor rights concerns, ongoing human rights criticisms, and a history of worker exploitation. And outside of John Pollock and Brandon Thurston, almost nobody in mainstream wrestling media seems to willing to even touch that question, because asking that question means acknowledging something uncomfortable. When WWE signs a multi-year deal with a government, they're not just renting a venue, they're aligning themselves publicly, financially, and symbolically with that government systems, its laws, and its reputation. And that's where the ethics come in. If Saudi Arabia has the fourth highest prevalence of modern slavery in the world, according to Walk Free, if Amnesty International continues to document exploitation of migrant workers in Riyadh, if the kafala system has been abolished on paper but still questioned in practice, then it's fair, more than fair, to ask whether WWE's presence in the region comes with responsibilities they're not talking about. Now, let's be clear. Nobody is saying WWE ordered exploitation. Nobody is saying WWE directed anything unethical. But when you build a stadium in 35 days in a country with a documented labor rights problem, the ethical question becomes unavoidable. Does WWE have a duty to ensure the workers behind their events are treated fairly? And if they don't know the answer, shouldn't they? Because WWE can control pyro, they can control production, they can control creativity, but they cannot control or publicly verify the labor practices of every contractor, subcontractor, or government partner involved in a project of this scale. And that's the part that makes this partnership ethically complicated. The 2026 Royal Rumble is officially in the books, and the road to WrestleMania 42 is wide open. Let's break it all down round number one style. Now, for the men's Royal Rumble match, the winner was Roman Reigns. This is his second Royal Rumble win and sets him up for his 11th WrestleMania main event. 11th. At this point, he's basically the landlord of WrestleMania. As for surprise entrances, we had Powerhouse Hobbs, who is now going by the name of Royce Keys in the WWE, LA Knight, and then we had AAA's Mr. Iguana and La Parca. Gunther was the last man eliminated, and keep that in mind because this was after he retired AJ Styles early in the night. Regardless of him losing the Royal Rumble, Gunther is being booked like a final boss. Now, here are my thoughts. And let me say this very clearly. Brock Lesnar was not a surprise entrance. I don't know why people online acted shocked. Brock shows up to Rumbles the way Canadians show up to Tim Hortons. It's muscle memory. Now, here's a real mystery. Who helped Obafemi destroy Braun Breaker? My answer is Finn Balor. Why? Because Finn is the only one right now who has every reason to snap. He was Punk verbally cooked him on TV. He wasn't in the Rumble. Judgment Day is falling apart. Mysterio's injured. JD McDonald is out of the picture. And the women's side is imploding with Liv and Roxanne and Raquel. So right now, Finn is a man with no stable, no momentum, and no patience. So what does he do? He goes after the chosen one of the division, Braun Breaker, to force himself back into the World Heavyweight Championship conversation. And with the Elimination Chamber taking place in Chicago, Punk's backyard, I'm calling it now, Finn Balor and Braun Breaker are both in that chamber match. So let's talk about the path of Roman Reigns. And here's where it gets interesting. The Rumble winner doesn't have to main event WrestleMania. Roman could easily say, I want Punk, but I want him at Elimination Chamber. Why? Because in reality, Roman is on a part-time schedule. Do you know how many times Roman wrestled last year? He wrestled 7 times in 2025. 7. Now, check this out. Between tomorrow, Monday, February 2nd, and the week of WrestleMania, there are about 10 to 11 episodes of Monday Night Raw. So, realistically, Roman can show up, do his segments, wrestle at the Chamber, wrestle at WrestleMania, and call it a year. So, my prediction is that Roman Reigns becomes World Heavyweight Champion at Elimination Chamber, and he drops it at WrestleMania. So, until the WWE Championship picture is officially locked in, Roman Reigns versus CM Punk is the single biggest promotional weapon WWE has for WrestleMania Vegas. Not one of, not maybe, the biggest. And we'll talk about this more this week on round number 1. Now, moving on, the Women's Royal Rumble match. Your winner is Liv Morgan. Here are some key notes. She turned on Raquel Rodriguez mid-match. This match included Charlotte, Asuka, Rhea, Julia, Io, Alexa Bliss, Sol Ruka from NXT, and much more. Liv winning wasn't really a shock, but it's what the internet wrestling community absolutely wanted to see. And then we had the return of Brie Bella, and the crowd in Saudi Arabia lost it when they lost it the second Brie Mode, her theme song, hit. And here's the fun detail. Nikki Bella, and I might get this wrong, but you kind of get the idea once I explain it. So Nikki Bella, I think, wore gear that had Bella number 1 on it, which was her way of telling the world Bella number 2 is coming. Now let's talk about this the Yes Chant situation. Now WWE legally owns the Yes Chant. That's why Bryan Danielson can't use it in AEW. And Michael Cole called it the Brie basically conjugated a chant, and Michael Cole referred to it as the It Chant on commentary, which is a little fourth wall wink from the WWE addressing this situation. As you may or may not know, Brie Bella is the husband of Daniel Bryan. Okay, so let's move on to the undisputed WWE Championship match. Drew McIntyre versus Sami Zayn. Drew McIntyre retained against Sami Zayn, who is easily the most beloved man in the building. Here's some key notes. Zayn had the loudest reactions of the night. Drew continues his dominant run into WrestleMania season. It's not the result that the fans in the arena wanted, but the match delivered. So then moving on, we had AJ Styles' retirement match. Gunther defeated AJ Styles by submission, officially ending a 20-year career. And here's my thoughts on this. You know, this didn't hurt me because I knew AJ was losing. And no, I don't think he's going to TNA. AJ knows his body better than fans think. Here's something that people tend to forget. TNA's, when TNA had the 6-sided ring, that ring used elevator cables as ropes. That ring was notoriously stiff. AJ spent nearly a decade taking bumps in that environment. Now, compared to the WWE, in the recent century, WWE has the safest ring in the industry, and but that even hurts at 48 years old, for a 48 years old person. And as you know, most WWE injuries take place outside of the ring. AJ Styles has been grinding for 2 decades. He's earned the right to say that he's done. And that's it. That's all I got to say. And that's where we're going to wrap up for this weekend's episode of round number 1. from the ethics behind the Riyadh Season Stadium to the chaos of the 2026 Royal Rumble and the early tremors of Roman Reigns versus CM Punk. This has been one of the most layered, most revealing breakdowns we have done here on this channel. We covered the spectacle, we covered the controversy, we covered the results of the Royal Rumble here in 2026. And we covered the real conversations that most wrestling media won't touch. So, we're on the road for WrestleMania 42. And if one thing's for sure, we're going to be in for a wild, unpredictable ride. So thank you for listening or watching. Thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you for being part of the conversation. This discussion is officially closed for now, but don't go too far, because next week we're picking off right where we left off. We're diving deeper into the fallout of the Royal Rumble. We're looking at the early signs of the WrestleMania card taking shape, and the biggest question of the season is WWE finally ready to pull the trigger on Roman Reigns versus CM Punk. This is the match, in my opinion, that has been brewing for, I guess, more than 8 years. I'll look at the booking, the politics, the possibilities, and also the real world factors that could shape the biggest WrestleMania event of this era. All that, plus updates on the Elimination Chamber, the women's title picture, and whatever chaos WWE decides to unleash next. So round number one returns next week, and trust me, you're not gonna want to miss it. So see you then.